Welcome back to 9 on 4 and More. I'm Tyler, joined by my co-host Brandon, where we talk Jags football and other news around the NFL. How you doing today, man?
Tired after these last 48 hours of just hecticness in this NFL. Like it's crazy what has gone down the last couple hours.
I'm pretty sure I used a bunch of battery on my phone, just constantly refreshing Twitter, especially I would say mostly today.
Yeah, I would say this goes right up to when Doug Peterson was named head coach. Like we've had a lull where like I wasn't even barely logging into Twitter or like anything like that. And then today it's just been like that's all I've been doing for the last 2 hours. It's like there's so much happening. Like every 5 minutes there's something breaking.
No, absolutely. I think that's pretty much how every sports fan, every NFL fan is doing right now. But let's start things off with the biggest news of the day. Probably going to be one of the biggest news of the whole season. Probably, honestly, one of the biggest news of NFL history. One of the biggest trades. That is Russell Wilson traded to the Denver Broncos. The Broncos are giving up kind of a haul: 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, a fifth. Drew Lock, Shelby Harris. They actually say Shelby Harris is like the one of the quarterbacks of the locker room, even though he's
He's a
not.
Pro Bowler.
He is.
He's not some scrub.
And then Noah Fant. I mean, Broncos get Russell Wilson, phenomenal. I think he can play another 5 to 8 years, in my opinion, especially if he's going to a team that's the offense line already 10 times better than the Seattle Seahawks. But the Broncos did give up. I mean, they gave up their tight end, one of their best defensive players, and a lot of picks. So they are pretty much going all in. And I think what shocked you and me, I think mostly everyone, is that we thought it was going to be Aaron Rodgers. And apparently it was never going to be Aaron Rodgers. And they were all in on Russell Wilson, which is completely opposite what we all thought.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense though. But yeah, you would have thought it would have been Rodgers. Like I think that was like the favorite of Vegas. Like, yes, anybody. It just made sense. This makes sense too. I think the Broncos are immediately probably a winning football team, obviously, but they got one of the tough. That AFC West is just terrible. Like terrible in a good way. Like I don't know how Oakland's screwed. Like there's no way that Oakland's beating the Broncos, Chargers, or Chiefs, and
They were
somehow
banking on
Oakland
Devontae
went.
Adams. They were banking on Devontae Adams.
Yeah, and that's not going to happen. So it's pretty much like Josh McDaniels is probably going to be out of the job, and Derek Carr and everything like that, and the Raiders probably going to have to rebuild soon because there's no way they're winning that division for the next couple of years, or even placing second. Like there's
Yeah.
just no way. So that division immediately becomes the best division in football. And the Broncos, I don't know if they're on Chiefs level because they have a better offensive line in Seattle, but their offensive line still is not good.
Yeah.
They still need to upgrade immediately, but having Russell Wilson and then just those wide receivers, you still have a good. I forgot their backup tight end, but
Yeah, he's not
like
bad. Yeah.
it's like Albert. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the last name. There's like 20 letters in it. But he's not like you said. He's not bad. Tight end class isn't bad. I totally get the Noah Fant. I find it funny that Jerry Jeudy, I think, thought he was the one getting traded. Because on Twitter he put like a little emoji that he was like mad, and then once it came out that it was not him, he's like, "Oh, we lit." Like he was like, "Oh, it's not me, thank God."
Right.
So we see how that's going. So it's just craziness of what's happening in the Broncos with Nathaniel Hackett better win early.
No,
Like
absolutely.
he's easily now in the best setup of any new head coach.
What's gonna be funny though is with the seventh team getting in the playoffs now that they started this year, is that, or this past year I'd say, the 2021 season, is that we haven't seen a whole division make the playoffs. If the Raiders somewhat could go 9-8, there is a possibility, a small possibility, you could have the whole AFC West in the playoffs, which is actually it won't happen, but it's just
No,
it's a possibility. They probably, out of any division, that's the best chance out of any
we
division.
maybe could have had this in the NFC because the AFC is
That's
just loaded
true.
with quarterbacks. The AFC is just there's like 12 like out of the like was it 16 teams that are in there, 12 of them have star quarterbacks or rising star quarterbacks. So while the NFC has what maybe 5 quarterbacks, 6 maybe
If
that are
that,
even decent.
I mean, you're an Eagles fan as well, because your dad grew up Eagles fan, so you kind of watch the Eagles and Jag. Jalen Hurts, I mean, I think he has a chance to be good, but I mean, right now he might be the third or fourth best quarterback in the NFC right
Yeah,
now.
it's crazy because you have Murray doing his little crazy rant thing, and then Kirk Cousins may leave. Kirk Cousins could easily get traded. That's one of the rumors that's coming around, and it's Jimmy Garoppolo is probably going to get traded and possibly to the Steelers, which would even add. I know Jimmy Garoppolo isn't a great quarterback; he's an average quarterback. You get him over there. Maybe Kirk Cousins gets traded. It's literally going to be the NFC is going to be controlled by the Packers and Rams next, like for next year at least, depending on the Rodgers deal. But the AFC is just loaded now, and the NFC is getting weaker and weaker.
Which is complete opposite from a few years ago when it was completely
Yep.
flip-flop. Now it's AFC just running the whole show. And I mean, if you're a betting person, I would pick the AFC to win the Super Bowl for the next 5 years.
Yeah, maybe the Rams may run it back. They still got a good team. Stafford's still decent. Odell's going to be just ready enough for playoff time. Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald. I mean, Jalen Ramsey. That's still easily one of the best overall teams. But yeah, you got to put your money on that. And the AFC is going to win probably 3 out of the next 5 Super Bowls. Is going to easily be an AFC team, and then possibly like 7 out of the next 10.
No, absolutely.
Some kind of like crazy numbers like that, unless someone comes out of the wild with like some brand new quarterback or something.
No, absolutely. Now, speaking of Aaron Rodgers did, they said re-signed originally. He did come out saying that it's not like a done deal, that contract, but he is staying with the Packers, he did say. But originally it came out saying that he is signing a 4-year, $200 million deal. So that's about $50 million a year, and as well as roughly around $156 million guaranteed. I think I said before, I think he stays at the Packers. But Broncos are obviously my second choice, and that definitely didn't happen. But It seems like they're running him back. Devonta Adams got tagged, and what was it, Devonta Adams or Aaron Rodgers that posted on Instagram last year, that one more last ride, basically?
I think that was Aaron Rodgers. I think because it was during the whole Michael Jordan Last Dance craze,
yeah.
And he posted about that.
Yeah, that was a lie now.
But, I mean, it could have been true at the time.
No, at the time,
it could have easily been truth at the time. And then just the way things work out, like, you never know what could happen. But I think it makes sense what happened.
No, absolutely. And I will say this. I do think, even though he did say they stick to the 4-year contract with Aaron Rodgers, I don't possibly see him sticking the 4 years. I think if he wins the Super Bowl within the next 2 or 3, he'll be done. Because he did say he was either thinking about retiring, staying with the Packers, or going to the Broncos. Those are the only 3. But obviously Broncos seemed like they weren't really interested. They wanted Russell Wilson. So it seemed like the second best option was retirement. So I definitely think if he does win a Super Bowl in the next few years, he will go ahead and retire. But it's going to be interesting about next year if they go ahead and pay Adams, or if they work on a long-term deal with Adams, because, he doesn't have to sign a tag until August or something.
I think it's July. I think it's mid-July. Because they talked about with Cam, I think it's like July 15th.
All right. So then July time that they have to sign it. I expect him to sign it, but they could work a long-term deal out, or potentially maybe, I don't think it's going to happen, but a tag and trade, but that'd be a team giving up multiple first-round picks as well.
Yeah, and I think Rodgers and Adams are pretty much tied, and I think the Packers know it too. If they get rid of either one of those two, they're not winning the Super Bowl. Like, they're just not a good enough overall team. I feel like that they need to win the Super Bowl, and they just cut. They're going to release Za'Darius Smith too, and their offensive line just has nothing but issues and injuries, and they're probably going to lose Scantling to the free agency, so they're going to have to rebuild their tight end situation is not very good. So you get rid of Adams, like on a sign and trade, you're probably not going to get the return value of that. And I think they're just going to have to go all in, just give him a long-term extension, and probably make him the highest paid wide receiver of all time, and make Rodgers the highest paid quarterback of all time.
And if we've seen one thing, the Saints proved it, Eagles have proved it, that there's no such thing as a cap space. I mean, you can maneuver your way to get positive cap room. It's just how it works. The Saints, what were they, like -50 to -60? I think they're plus 30 now.
Well, so with same thing with the Packers. Packers cleared up like $40 million or some stupid. The Cowboys today cleared up like $20 million. Like, it literally, the cap, when they say the cap doesn't matter, it is true. The cap doesn't matter anymore. Yes. It's pretty much, they might as well almost just do baseball rules at this point.
I mean, Eagles proved it years ago.
Oh, Eagles did it they've been one of the better teams at it. And then so are the Patriots in Baltimore too. Baltimore and Patriots are the compensatory picks, but they still do the same thing with the whole, like, extending guys and working the cap space out to get whatever they want.
Yeah. Speaking of Packers as well, I don't know how you feel about it, but I definitely think that there is a chance they are still going to draft a wide receiver at the end of the first round, since they are picked like.
I would. We've been saying that for years. It doesn't. That Jordan Love pick didn't make any sense. Even the Dillard pick, the AJ Dillon pick, kind of started working out. Now that they have 1-2 punch, but it still should have been a wide receiver where they took Dillard. Like it's just there's so many picks that they should have picked a wide receiver to pair with Devontae Adams, and now with Scantling being gone and this weak free agent wide receiver class now, they're you would assume that you have another wide receiver.
And you have
going in
someone
the
like
first
Chris
round.
Olave who had a great combine, who potentially could be there in the late first round. So that would be an excellent play. He's more of that speedster guy as well as a kind of a big body as well. I mean, I think the Packers are going to have plenty of options because, I mean, unless there's a big run on wide receivers, I think they'll have a top choice of like one of the top 5 or 6 wide receivers. I think what picks
No,
25, 26?
I don't know, man. I think the opposite. I think this wide receiver class, we're gonna see like 7 go by the time like
Oh,
we're
so
in the
do I.
mid
I
20.
think there's going to be a big run.
Like so it's gonna be, and that's one thing with the Jags. I feel like we're gonna have to trade up because when you're sitting there at 33, you're gonna have possibly 6 or 7 wide receivers go in front of that. So now we're getting wide receiver 8 rookie. I mean Pickens, Watson. We're looking at that kind of thing, and we'll get into it later with free agency. But I think we're gonna need a better wide receiver than necessarily those picks, who may not be bad, but they're still wide receiver 8 out of the draft.
Yeah.
Like that's typically they're probably not going to be the best one.
I guess the one positive about wide receivers, like having this big run on wide receivers, is that pick 33, there's going to be someone like probably maybe like a big defensive player like Jordan Davis or pass rusher, someone like that might fall to pick 33, and then you kind of can't pass them up.
If Jordan Davis falls to 33, that should be the quickest. Like it may not even. I don't even know they will get to a commercial. Like literally the second the draft, because we'll be the first pick of the day. The second that Jags are on the clock, that ticket should be turned in, pretty much.
Absolutely.
There's no but
I seen
who knows?
One mock draft today that had it, like you said, like 7 or 8 wide receivers went in the first round, and you had Devin Lloyd from Utah fell to 33, and the Jags were just like, okay, I mean that's our guy.
I mean it's tough for the Jags because I think we're gonna have to re-sign Damian Wilson. But maybe we just do a 1-year deal and we just run Floyd. We get Lloyd and we just run Jack, Lloyd, and Wilson, and kind of just throw that up. Or, maybe we could trade Wilson. I'm not on the board of trading Jack. I think Jack was hurt pretty much every game he played last year. Yep. I think he played in a new scheme, and I still think he is one of the best linebackers that we've ever had as a Jaguars. And I think if you put Lloyd next to him, and you give a healthy Miles Jack second year in the 3-4 kind of defensive style with the head defensive coordinator is a linebackers coach.
Yeah, and he's hyped about it. Miles Jack's hyped about it.
And he was hyped about Miles Jack. He basically said Miles Jack can do whatever he wants out there. So I don't see Jack going anywhere. If we do get Lloyd, it would be more of maybe Damian Wilson just becomes a pure goal line, third short kind of linebacker, and then Lloyd and Jack are out there, which I wouldn't mind.
No, not at all. So other news around the NFL, I mean, we already talked about Adams getting tagged. We also do have Chris Godwin, unfortunately got tagged, which is a player that we actually had mocked to the Jags for quite some time. I think actually a lot of people did.
I think almost everybody did. I think if he didn't get tagged by the Bucs, he was going to be a Jaguar.
No, absolutely. And then you had Dalton Schultz tagged from the Cowboys. That was so I was kind of suspecting the past 2 days, but like if you would have told me last week, I don't think I would have thought about him getting tagged. But past 2 days, more and more rumors coming out that he was getting tagged. Mike Gesicki got tagged from the Dolphins. I think that was a smart move, but apparently he's gonna be filing a grievance against the NFL because the tag for the tight end is only like 10 million, but he wants the wide receiver like 16,
he played like 85% of the snaps, in the slot. He wasn't even lined up as a tight end like 85% of the time.
Yeah, exactly. So he could be filing the grievance. So that would definitely be interesting to see. And for the Jaguars, Cam Robinson tagged, which you and me were talking about for, a while by texting back and forth and basically, some other things on Twitter. It seems like fans are 50-50 on it. You can literally, there's so many directions the Jaguars can go right now. I mean, they can go ahead and just tag and trade Cam Robinson if they can't get Armstead, who, by the way, Armstead's been linked to the Jags now. By NFL Network. I forgot who tweeted it out, but one of the NFL Network guys did, as well as what's funny is Armstead's agent is Brandon Linder's agent. So there's definitely something similar there between those two. You also have, they can still draft Neal or, the tackle from North Carolina, and then potentially still tag Cam Robinson. I mean, there's just plenty of options. I'm on the fence of it. Like, I understand why they did it, but I don't think it makes sense.
Yeah, to me, it just I think we got more options if we would have tagged Chark.
No, yeah,
I think
absolutely.
that transition tag, especially this free agent market, is just going lower and lower. And I feel like the tag is now more for your young guys that you want to like keep on your team for one more year, not like a prove it kind of situation. And that's what Chark is. And I just don't feel like Cam Robinson deserved 2 franchise tags. Dude's going to make $30 million in 2 years.
Yeah,
Paid top 5 tackle in the league, and he's just not a top 5 tackle in the league. Um, it's
I would.
it just doesn't
I
make
would
any
say he's
sense to me
above
personally.
average tight left
Yeah,
tackle. Nothing,
he's
spectacular.
fine if like you want to if you tell me Cam Robinson is the 12th best tackle in the NFL. I'm not even maybe 10. I could maybe like see like okay, I can kind of he had a good year last year, but people always go to his sack numbers. And if you look at Trevor Lawrence and the way he played, Trevor Lawrence saved Cam Robinson probably so many times with throwing the ball away because Cam
29
also allowed the
pressures.
most QB hits and pressures of his career. Just his sack was only one because Trevor Lawrence was throwing the ball away.
Yep.
And it's like pressures and QB hits are more on the offensive line than sacks. And it proved that and if you watch Cam Robinson last year, he really wasn't that great. When Walker Little played, Walker Little was better than Cam Robinson. So to me, why are you going to tag a guy and pay him what is Cam Robinson be making like 16 something a year with
16.5
this
or between 16.5 and 18. I don't know exactly the number though.
something like that. It's your top 5 tackle in the league, and you're going to pay him that while you have a guy who could easily come in on a second round rookie deal. And then you can easily get Neil, Aquanu, even Charles Cross. You could play at the left tackle and literally you could have used that pick, and then you would have 2 pretty much rookie tackles, a rookie quarterback, and you could have spent the money anywhere else.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like now if we get Armstead, we're going to have to trade Cam Robinson. That's going to have to be a tag and trade because you can't have Robinson, Little, and Armstead. And Jawaan Taylor's still on a rookie deal. I know Taylor's not a good starter, but if Jawaan Taylor's your backup right tackle, you're fine.
Yeah.
And he's really cheap. So are you really going to keep a guy for $16 million to be your right tackle or your backup, and Walker Little just sits on the bench, even though he's better than him? So that's kind of where I have the issue with the Cam getting the tag.
It does kind of seem this is a Jags backup plan. I mean, I think we can agree on that. It seems like they do want Armstead. This is their backup plan. And I kind of get this vibe now that they don't really want to roll with a rookie left tackle.
Yeah.
Like they if Cam Robinson's their starter this year for 1 year, that's fine. If not, if they get Armstead, great. But like I said, if not, it's Cam Robinson for 1 year. Yeah, I still don't like the trade. Now, if it was like similar to how Orlando Brown got, you traded for like Orlando Brown like the Chiefs did last year, and then he didn't play particularly well for the Chiefs, but you gave up all this draft capital. I would understand a tagging then.
Yeah,
you gave up the draft capital. You're obviously
exactly, and he's at least decent. It's not like he played terrible.
Yeah, but it seems like we're both in the consensus that if they would have tagged Chark, it would have made more sense and gave them more options. But now the Jaguars are desperate at wide receiver. I mean, Mike Williams was another name that I was all about as well, but he just got a 3-year, $6 million deal, $40 million guaranteed. So he's off the table. Now, Allen Robinson is probably the hottest free agent wide receiver. And Chark's probably number 2. Christian Kirk's probably number 3. I'm not going to bring up Cooper because he's still on the Cowboys right now, or even possibly Tyler Lockett or DK, from Seattle. But those top 3 right there, Chark, Robinson, and Kirk, I mean, the Jags have to nail at minimum one of them. They have to. There's no question about that.
The other name is Michael Gallup, but he's already been linked that he's going to resign with the Cowboys, and the Cowboys save $20 million. If they probably going to release Cooper, they save another like $16 million. So odds are Michael Gallup's going to be on the Cowboys next year too. So you're pretty much looking like, as you said, we have to hit 2 out of the top 4 wide receiver free agents in this class. And if we don't, it's
Juju
probably a fail.
I'll throw Juju as the fourth or 5th guy. Juju.
I go back and forth with Juju. If Juju's number 2, I guess you're fine. But I just don't want to pay anybody to Juju unless it's like a 1-year kind of deal. Like maybe like we do like a Moncrief deal where it's like 1 year, $9 million.
But if he's your 2, like if you get Allen Robinson and Juju or Chark and Juju, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, and you got to get that 33 pick or whatever we're going to do with that pick is going to have to be a wide receiver. There's no questions about it. Especially we're probably number one's probably going to be edge or trade out now to going with the whole thing. So it's either Aiden Hutchinson or we're trading down season. There's no, I don't think we're drafting Neal or Kwanu to play guard at the number one overall pick, just to play right tackle or left tackle next year.
Absolutely.
I really don't see us doing that. I see us probably getting a free agent guard and probably a draft. There's a lot of good interior offensive
I mean,
linemen
if they
in
get
this
Brandon
draft.
Carey from free agency, I'm all for that as well, though.
Well, there's also what is it? Tomlinson from the 49ers, Golowski
Connor
from
Williams?
the Colts,
Connor
Connor
Williams from
Williams
Cowboys.
on Dallas, Alex Kappa on the Bucks. Like there's so many interior offensive linemen in this
You
draft.
can
Oh,
prove that part,
James
yeah.
Daniels from the Bears. There's so many of them. Ryan Jensen, center. I know, but they can probably play both or move Linder, guard, or whatever. Like there's so many things they can do interior offensive line, and this draft is deep in that. That to me, it's like, why would you draft the number one overall pick to play guard when you could have gotten that same player? Because Neal and Aquan, in my opinion, are probably better right tackles than they are guards, just because I think they bring more value there. So why would you spend a number one overall pick there when you could have gotten the same player in the third round to play guard there? Like you can get Ed Ingram to play your right guard, and he would do just as well probably as Evan Neal there. And that's a 70 pick difference kind of situation.
No, I agree 100%. It's definitely gonna be interesting for the Jaguars free agency. I mean, I'm not gonna bring up all the rumors right now that's going on Twitter, but I mean, there's a bunch of defensive names out there, more so the secondary, corner and safety. It's just weird because usually nowadays we start seeing more and more leaks from the Jaguars, like, they're going to go after this guy 100%. But I mean, it's very quiet. It's awesome to see that it's going to be like, I'm really more excited about free agency than I've ever been, but I'm also very nervous when it comes to free agency next week.
Yeah, we've only hit free agency once. And I mean, when we hit it really good. Like, I mean, we had one of the best defenses of all time.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can trust Balky to be a talent evaluator that he can bring that in. Because much we want to talk about Doug, Balky's still the GM, and there is no sign of an EVP. I don't think we'll get an EVP anytime soon. There is no assistant GM names being thrown around. It's just Doug, Schad, and Balky. And Schad and Balky do not have a good track record. And Doug doesn't have a long enough track record, or even a track record where, because Howie and the owner of the Eagles, Lori, were always in those discussions, making those decisions for him. He probably made very few. So we do not have a good track record of staff for building a team through free agency in the draft yet. Just, it doesn't exist here. So I get the whole, I'm excited too. I think there's so many avenues that we could go. And I think there's so many obvious ones. I'm just scared we're not going to take the obvious choice.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Because we haven't yet. I feel like the Jaguars have just done nothing but lie
until they prove it to us.
Yeah, they've lied through their teeth and haven't proven anything that they're going to do what makes sense. We're literally like, there's NFL reporters going like, what is this? What are we doing here? We have nothing coming out of, like, other teams have leaks, and they do that for a reason. It's like freaking crop, the old Westerns where it's going through the ghost town and just a little crop dust is going through. That's as much as we got from anybody. We have no idea what they're going to do, and that scares me. I feel like it would be better if we had some kind of like, okay, this is the direction we know they're going to kind of go, and we just don't have anything.
And free agency definitely, I think, is going to help dictate of what the Jaguars do, whether it's trading, picking.
Yeah.
I mean, if they don't get a pass rusher in free agency, I think you
it's going to be
down Hutchinson. But if they go out there first day and get Allen Robinson, they get Chandler Jones, they get someone else, then it's like, all right, now there's a good chance they might trade out of one, or they can still even draft Hutchinson and have like a good combo, even adding Josh Allen, obviously in there with Jones and Hutchinson. Like you said, until the Jags prove they can do it, I'm not getting my hopes up, but I am going to get my hopes up though, because that's what I do.
Yeah. I mean, it would be stupid, I feel like, to not give your hopes up, but it's looking, that's my whole thing with Chark is just, I'm very worried about this wide receiving core. I don't think we're going to be able to get 2 out of the top 5 receiver.
I think one you're going to draft one. That's just probably how it's going to end up.
Yeah, and then we're going to have to end up either getting the 8th best receiver in the draft, or we're going to have to trade up to get the 3rd best receiver in the draft, which may work. I mean, like we all said, but to me, it was just like if you could just would have transition tag Chark, you would have had all the advantage of everything. I think they could have thrown money at like Morgan Moses to be the right tackle. You had Armstead be the left tackle. You had Neil Laquan. There were so many different ways you could have gone at tackle because you had Walker Little and you know he's going to be good, and you have Jawan Taylor to be the backup. So you knew all you had to do is find either a left tackle or a right tackle, just one. You didn't have to go out and go get 3 receivers. We're going to have to go and get 3 to 4 receivers. There is no, we can only bring Chark and a rookie. That's just, we're going to have the same receiving corps as we did last year, and we saw what that happened.
No,
so are we just going to run the same team again? That's my thing on offense. We cannot run the same offense again in year 2 of Trevor Lawrence, or it's going to be a disaster. And that's what I'm afraid of, is that this team is going to look very similar to the 2021 team on offense, personnel wise, and that's not going to be a good thing.
No, absolutely. And then you have tight ends now, Jags. I mean, they're probably going to look at, they were trying probably getting a top 3 tight end, you know, when for agency. Now you're looking at probably maybe someone like OJ Howard, Robert Tonyan, who they're not terrible players, but they're not like that, you know, that main tight end that you really wanted. So the Jags are definitely probably, in my opinion, be drafting a tight end. I still think they can win a free agency. Maybe it's Zach Ertz still. I really hope it is Zach Ertz. Just because, being familiar.
I will go on record. It would be shocked if it's not Zach Ertz.
Yeah.
Doug Peterson loves Zach Ertz. Yeah. Zach Ertz loves Doug Peterson. And I think Dan Arnold, Zach Ertz would make just an unbelievable fit. Whether that's a good thing with Zach Ertz's age coming up on him, and
the
all
veteran
the
leadership, I think,
injuries he has.
Yeah.
But if he's your number 2 tight end, you're doing fine. I personally,
you can still draft a guy in the 3rd or 4th round, because the tight end group here is really deep this year in the draft class. So I think you can still
get that kid from Virginia, Jelani Woods, runs 6'7", 240, ran like a 4.5, and has like a 40-inch vertical. Like, that's the guy I want that is going to fall like the 4th round. Put him as your 3rd tight end, and I think you're fine.
And then after 2 years, because I assume if say you do get Zach Ertz, it's probably only a 2-year deal. Zach Ertz probably retires. He goes back to the Eagles, retires for a day. And then Dan Arnold's number 2. That rookie you drafted this year in 2 years is your number 1. I think that's how I would honestly go about it.
Yeah, to me, that's what I'm saying. It just makes too much sense. I think that is the one that I'm not worried about. If we don't get Zach Ertz, I think something wrong happened, or he's chasing a ring, which he very well could. He already has one, but I could very much see him being like, I want to go play for the Bills, you know?
I mean, I don't blame him then.
Or, you know, the Chiefs, or, you know, wherever, and just try to get that ring, or Rams even.
The Bengals need a tight end now with their
Bengals.
Tight end.
Yeah, they got a cap space too. They got so much. That is one thing I did have Armstead going to the Bengals. I think that makes too much sense. I think they have just as much cap space as we have pretty much, and it would shock me if Armstead doesn't end up there now with Cam Robinson getting tagged here.
Yeah, I think in order, you know, Armstead's likely landing spots: number 1, Bengals; number 2, Dolphins. We've seen Dolphins being linked to him. Number 3, Jags. Yeah. I think that's the order I would probably put it in.
Yeah, and I think it would have been different if we didn't tag Cam. I think if we didn't tag Cam, he would have been 1-2 option. It would have been either Jaguars or Bengals.
No, absolutely. Then we got one more thing to talk about, and that was the combine over the weekend, and you know, from earlier last week. And you said it to me the other day, which is this might be the most fastest and athletic combine of all time. I mean, the speed we've seen in here, from whether it was wide receivers, running backs, corner, safety, defense lineman, offense lineman. I mean, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest surprise, I think, everybody was Jordan Davis. That man, 6'6", 340, running a 4.7 is just, that shouldn't be possible. And then you had, an edge rusher run a 4.38, and then offensive linemen's running like 4.5s, 4.7s, and it's just like, what is going on here? And it's unbelievable what we're getting. Another guy, I can't remember, Tariq Woolen. He's like 6'4", 220. And ran like a 4.2, like 5 or something like that. Yeah. Like, his draft stock is going to go skyrocketing.
No, absolutely. And you had the corners who had very good, you know, fast times, but you know, they're very athletic, but sometimes the fast and athletic guys don't always pan out. That's one thing the combine has proven. You know, when it comes to DBs, I noticed that they more look towards like, do they have good hip motion moving from left to right from behind? Because I mean, you have what's the name from Cincinnati?
Gardner.
You have Gardner, who, I mean, what did he run? 4.5, 4.6. It wasn't, you know, fast.
It was pretty. I think he ran like a 4.41. Like, he actually had a
it was something like that. And then the second one, it was like 4.5, 4.6. But he's a lengthy guy but he has a hip motion and the hip movement that already outweighs whatever he could have ran at the 40, just because
Yeah.
his skill set at the combine and college level is going to transition very well to the NFL. It's just every team that's going there to look for a certain position. Wide receiver, they're going for, some of them are going for speed, some are going for hand catching ability. It just, you don't know, for each team is different, and it's just that's what's so good about the combine, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like if Jack should have been looking for everybody. Like we were just there to be like, who's the best one? There is no, we really need a guy that can run a route. We need a guy that can do a deep threat. We needed all of them. So I'm pretty sure when it was wide receiver day, I would at least hope that was when everybody was writing down everything, looking at every single small thing. Like linebackers, I wouldn't mind. I know the scouting department isn't going to like take any position off because you want to cover everybody, but to me, it was just like Jack should have been there for wide receiver. I thought offensive line. Maybe they went to offensive line. They didn't like what they saw, which I don't know how you couldn't with Ekwonu, Cross, and Neal. I know Neal didn't perform at all.
And
But
it seems like Neal is
leanest 340 you ever seen in your life. That man, like, dude looked like he was a regular Joe, and he was 6'6", 340. Like,
oh yeah, absolutely,
that's just ridiculous.
And it seemed like, based off reports, don't know how true it is, but Neal might be the number 2, number 3 tackle for the Jaguars. Like, as in, like, where they have him ranked. Every team's different. I'm a believer when it comes to the combine for teams, is that, say you have 2 players, you can't decide about who you like as your 1A and who's your 1B, and they're both even, and this is kind of deciding factor who you want to draft. I think that's when the combine comes into effect.
Yeah.
Comes into effect, whether the 40, the bench press, whatever. I think that's what the combine should be used for. Not coming in here, this wide receiver just ran a 4.3, he's automatically a first or second round pick when he used to be a 5th round pick. I think this is more so for teams that are trying to decide between 1, 2, maybe even 3 players.
It's also like medical wise.
Oh yeah,
to like get the accurate height and accurate weight, because we know college lies. Like, who was it? Wan'Dale Robinson was like listed like 5'10", 5'11" ish, and then he comes in and he's 5'8". Like, that's a huge difference in size for NFL. Most guys do not make it at 5'8" as a wide receiver.
And what they have Russell Wilson like 6'1" in like college or whatever. Like, there's no,
he was like 5'11" really, and
Yeah.
so it's like that's really what the combine is for: is get accurate weight measures, see how they are physically if they were hurt, and just kind of work way through that. But like, also, like you said, different 1A and 1B, because Neal and Charles Cross and Ekwonu,
Yeah,
they're different conferences. They play different teams. So you can't really be like, oh, this is how Neal attacked Trayvon Walker. Well, Ekwonu never faced Trayvon Walker. So you can't be like side-by-side comparison. But if you get the combine, you at least get the stats of like, well, Ekwonu is better at this, this, and this on the combine, while Neal is better at this as pro day kind of situations. That is kind of like what it's for. It shouldn't be, like the kid from Baylor. He's probably, I think we finally got away from, if you have a record 40 time, you immediately top 10
right?
pick. Yeah, like John Ross. John Ross should not have been a first round pick, but he was because of his 40 time. And I think we're now past that, because I've heard nothing mentioned about him. Like, literally after he got that, where he unofficially got the record, but then they adjusted and he was second all time. He's not moving anywhere. He's still going to be probably like a 6th round pick. Maybe that went him from being undrafted to a 6th round pick.
Yeah,
but it's not moving him, like we said, from a 5th round pick to a 1st round like it has in the previous years.
No, absolutely. But I think that's all we have for you, everyone, today. Thank you all for joining and watching. Definitely hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Twitter at 904more, and we'll definitely keep you guys updated on any other breaking NFL news, as well as free agency coming next week. And we might have another video soon talking about our free agency predictions, what we want the Jaguars to do. But thanks for watching, and go Jags.